So everyone, welcome to our 2023 Masters of Science in Global Infectious Disease informational webinar. We are grateful that each and every one of you could be here today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. We have Dr. Ellen Carlin, who is the program director, myself, the program coordinator, and Tori, who is a current student in the program, and she's going to go over some of her experiences navigating through Georgetown and the program. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Dr. Carlin to go ahead and do a deep dive into the program, answer any questions that you may have. Please feel free to utilize the Q&A section of this webinar, and we will answer all of your questions as we go through. Oh, Dr. Carlin, I think you might be on mute.
Okay. You want me to pick it up here? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Tori, for joining. And thank you so much to everyone who's here online. We're really excited to meet you in this virtual capacity. We're really pleased that you're willing to give up a little bit of your time on a Wednesday evening. We know everyone has a long day at work or at school, and we're just grateful for this little bit of your time to tell you about our program. So I'm going to talk to you for just a little while about Georgetown and our program at Georgetown, Global Infectious Disease. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course requirements for the master's degree, about the admissions requirements, and then we'll open it to Q&A. But I definitely encourage you to ask questions during the webinar using the chat function, which Zoe will monitor. So Zoe, feel free to interrupt me if you'd like, so we can ask questions and ask and answer questions in real time. So for those of you who, let's go back to the Georgetown slide. For those of you who are not familiar with Georgetown, we were founded in 1789, right here in what is the nation's capital. I've been at Georgetown for a little over 3 years, and I've been so impressed with the quality of the students, the quality of the staff, and the quality of the faculty. One of the things I like most about being at Georgetown is that it puts you in the heart of Washington, D.C. And for anyone who's interested in policy or science policy or public health or infectious disease, honestly, this is the place to be. You can work on Capitol Hill, or you can work at the NIH in Bethesda, or anywhere in between. It's a university with a long history of innovation and effort in global health. We have a lot going on at this school that relates to global health and global infectious disease. And what that translates into for our students is opportunities to learn, opportunities to go to seminars, to do research with amazing faculty. This is really a great place to be. And I think one of the things a lot of people don't know about Georgetown is actually that our graduate student body is larger than our undergraduate student body. We are a university that really has built incredible programs around graduate education, and we're excited that you're considering us. Next slide, please. So I'd like to introduce you to the GLID Executive Committee. I am on the committee. Dr. Shweta Bansal, a modeler with the Department of Biology, is on the committee. Dr. Rebecca Katz, who is a demographer and global health security expert with the Center for Global Health Science and Security, is on the committee. And Dr. Steven Singer, a Giardia expert and a parasitologist and immunologist with the Department of Biology, rounds out the committee. Dr. Singer is also the Director of Graduate Studies for the PhD program. Next, please. So what is our vision here at GLID? This program was started 3 years ago to help educate students in a wide variety of tools that they need to solve what is a very complex global problem. This master's isn't just about one thing, right? It's not virology or bacteriology or epidemiology. You're going to be exposed to a world of disciplines and concepts and skills that will make you a well-rounded infectious disease practitioner. What we do here is foster interdisciplinary study, really unlike any other infectious disease program. The executive committee that you saw on the prior slide, we are very interdisciplinary. So I am a veterinarian, we have biologists and social scientists, and if you look at our affiliated faculty page, many of whom are actively teaching classes at GLID and supporting the students in research project, they really come from all walks of science, and all of us come together to try to work on this infectious disease problem. The other thing we do here is we like to bring master's students and PhD students together. We do this within the GLID program. We're a unique program at the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences in that we have a PhD program in addition to our master's. And what I think this does is create a really rigorous intellectual learning environment for our students, because having these master's and PhD students with different levels of education from different countries and different walks of life comes together, makes for a really rich learning environment. And we encourage that kind of co-mingling to occur throughout programs all across the university. Next slide, please. So what would you do if you came to Georgetown to study global infectious disease? So this is a full-time or part-time program. It is designed for in-person study across 3 semesters. And most students do this program full-time. They take anywhere from 9 to 10 credits per semester, usually starting in the fall, continuing in the spring, and then graduating at the end of the following fall. But we've also accommodated a number of students who have preferred to go part-time. Some of these students had full-time jobs and they wanted to continue working at them. Others maybe had part-time jobs and they just wanted to take a slightly lower credit level to accommodate their work. We can work with you to accommodate your schedule. We are an in-person program. This is not an online learning program. And part of the reason for that is that, for one thing, we want students to be taking advantage of everything that Washington, D.C. has to offer in terms of part-time jobs and internships. We also like to have really rigorous kind of intellectual discussions and conversations in the classroom in real time and get you thinking about challenging issues and articulating them and working together. So most of our students are really responding well to this idea of in-person study, even in the age of Zoom and remote learning. Over the course of your time here, you will take 30 credits, and we'll talk about what those are comprised of. And they will end with a 2-credit capstone experience. So this is either a primary research paper or a literature review paper, which you will present to faculty and students at the end of your education here. All students in the program are required to complete the degree within 3 years. No student has ever taken 3 years to complete the program. Most students complete it in 3 semesters. Occasionally, we have students who do 4 or 5 semesters. Next, please. So what is the curriculum made up of? Well, up on top here, you see what are joint courses. So all students in the program, regardless of concentration, which I'll talk about, take these 18 credits together. And up top, you see a 6-credit year-long course called Interdisciplinary Perspectives in Infectious Disease. And this is really designed to be kind of our flagship course. This is one of the things that makes us unique. We bring 6 experts. Most of these are university faculty, full-time university faculty. Some of them are emeritus professors. Sometimes they're adjuncts. We like bringing in adjuncts. So for example, last year we had an instructor from the U.S. Agency for International Development come in and teach about tuberculosis. You know, who better to do that than a person who lives in that world every day. And so the idea here is that you start to get exposed to concepts in basic biology and immunology and epidemiology and policy and governance and the operationalization of public health. And it all kind of comes together in a single class over the course of a year. And by the end of this year, you've learned about different types of viruses, pox viruses, tuberculosis, HIV, neglected tropical diseases. And you also start to have the vocabulary to explain what the challenges are in these spaces, the way, say, a student just studying the microbiology or the epidemiology wouldn't have. In addition to that, you get rigorous basic science classes, infection and immunity, the epidemiology of infectious disease, and a course that we're really excited about called Evidence for Infectious Disease Policy, which is taught by a National Institutes of Health scientist who is working to bridge, you know, the science that she's doing with the policymakers who can really bring that science to life. So this class is really designed, it usually comes toward the end of your education, and it's where you can start to synthesize what you've been learning in basic science and in policy. Our students also take a 1-credit research ethics class and finally end with the 2-credit capstone. As far as concentrations go, and we'll talk about why you would choose a certain concentration, but each of the concentrations has 12 credits. So on the left, you can see modeling and informatics. And our students take a wonderful course with Dr. Bonsall, modeling of biological systems. Even if you've never had a modeling class, you can take this class and learn a little bit about modeling over 3 credits. Our students take mathematical and statistical computing. And another new course that we're really excited about called Analytic Methods in Epidemiology. I think Tori's in that course right now, so maybe she can tell you a little bit about it. And we leave room for a 3-credit elective. And you can sign up for one of many courses from across the university. It's not just the grad school programs that you're limited to. You know, our students take electives in a lot of other departments and even other campuses, such as like the medical campus, which is in the same physical place, but it's a different campus. In science policy, we have a similar structure with 3 classes that are core to that concentration. Policy analysis for global infectious disease, which is taught by Dr. Matthew Kavanaugh. He's a wonderful instructor. He just spent the last year at UNAIDS, right? So our professors they're researchers, but they're also professors of practice in the sense that they really bring real world experience to the degree. What you're learning is ultimately very applied and applicable. We have a 3-credit course in global health security and diplomacy taught by Dr. Katz, and health economics and financing. So you can understand how the money flows when it comes to global health and global infectious disease. And finally, our science policy students also have an elective to choose from across the university. Next slide, please. Okay, so the 2-credit capstone, this is something that we love and our students are really thriving in. This is a research experience in your final semester. You choose your topic. What are you passionate about? What do you want to end your GLID career with? And this is usually something that has piqued the interest of a student over the course of their study. You can choose to do a literature review, asking a question that maybe no one else has asked, or maybe you just want to ask. You want to learn more about a particular question in infectious disease. And these literature reviews they're at the graduate level, right? So we're expecting more maybe than what you might have done in undergrad. And they're interdisciplinary. So this is the other thing, right? So you're going to pick a topic and maybe you're really interested in policy, but you're going to have to show us the numbers, right, that support those policies. Or maybe you want to be a data modeler. Tell us what it means for policymakers with whatever your findings are. We also have students who undertake original research, and this is also an exciting option for students who maybe have an eye toward research in the future. For instance, right now, I have a student who's doing research at the NIH, and she's being mentored by an NIH scientist. She's working on phylogeny of influenza viruses, and she will end up with not just a capstone, but a peer-reviewed published paper from that work. So we're really excited for her. I and other faculty act as the faculty advisors to guide you through this process, but most of our students also find other mentors who are experts in the particular field or the particular question in which they're researching. And I think everyone finds this a really fulfilling process. This is really a nice opportunity for young professionals to present in front of an audience of faculty and to publish. The woman that you see in the photo, Norma Quintanilla, she presented her capstone last May. She then went on and published her paper in the Georgetown Medical Review. So it's now a peer-reviewed published paper. And she also presented it at a national conference, the American Public Health Association. So we're really, really excited to see what our students are going on to do with their capstones. Choose a concentration. This is like choosing your own adventure. So I mentioned modeling and informatics and science policy. So you have to choose a concentration at the time you apply. And so we offer two concentrations, and they're quite different. Modeling and informatics is for the data-oriented students. The idea here is to foster learning in epidemiology and other types of applied data analytics. It emphasizes the quantitative science behind infectious disease threats, and how can we assess these threats using modeling or other quantitative methods. Students who graduate from this concentration will be able to describe and analyze patterns of disease in human populations, identify the determinants and the public health impact of infectious diseases. They will also understand the mechanisms and the interactions of factors involved in disease transmission. On the science policy side, this really emphasizes the importance of identifying and analyzing and developing policy tools to deal with the infectious disease threat. So our students will develop skills for policy analysis through a variety of methods and coursework, review of domestic bodies like the United States Congress, review of an international decision-making bodies like the World Health Organization. You'll get a little political theory in there. You'll learn about diplomacy and economics and financing, all of the pieces that go into governance over global infectious disease. And when you come out, you will be able and comfortable to utilize methodologies, both formal and informal, for policy analysis. You'll be able to come up with policy options that are feasible in the real world, and you'll be able to assess evidence, scientific evidence and data for utility in supporting policy decisions. So you can see here that the goal here is to develop professionals who have very practical and applied skills when they get out into the world. Next slide. Student experience. What I'd like to do just for a few minutes is turn it over to Tori Lavelle. Tori is a second semester student in the modeling and informatics concentration, and I'd like her just to tell you why she came to Georgetown and what it is about this master's that she feels is really fostering excellence in her career path.
Thanks so much, Dr. Carlin. I just wanted to first off start by saying this is my student experience, but one of the what makes for such a rich GLID community is that you line up 10 other GLID students and they'll each tell you something else in terms of their current interests, what projects they're working on, where they're planning to go career-wise. And that's been one of the most exciting components of this program for me. So just a bit of background details on myself. Again, my name is Tori, and I'm in my second semester of the program. My concentration within GLID is the modeling informatics, and I grew up in Georgia outside of Atlanta. In terms of what drew me to the program and Georgetown in general, I had a background in biology and in ecology, but I was always looking for ways to bridge the gap between policy and science, and was always very drawn into interdisciplinary work. And when I was looking at different programs, the faculty at GLID specifically stood out. As Dr. Carlin mentioned, it seems like many of the faculty have one foot in academia and the other in on-the-ground policy implementation and advising. And Dr. Carlin herself, she used to work on Capitol Hill. She has current projects going on in Guinea. Others have advised at the State Department. And this also means that faculty are very well connected. And so many of our class speakers can often come in person. And we've had speakers come from the NIH, from the State Department, CDC, and so forth. The course offerings have been really amazing in terms of both how wide-ranging they've been, but also they really get into the nitty-gritty. So I'm in, as Dr. Carlin mentioned, an epidemiology course right now. We're kind of bridging both modeling and R and Python, but also thinking through the policy implications of different case studies. And then also just the DC location. It's you know, in addition to being just a beautiful place in terms of museums and incredible people that the city attracts, it's also the center not only of politics, but also policy, just right outside of your door. And then also the nice thing about GLID is you can view it as either a terminal degree or a jumping off point into a doctorate program or medical degree. I know students who are doing both, and I just really appreciate the flexibility that that program, the program entails. And then in terms of favorite kind of experience so far, I've been really impressed with how easy it's been to get involved with research with GLID faculty. I'm currently working in the research lab of Dr. Colin Carlson, who studies the relationship between climate change and emerging infectious diseases. A fellow student of mine last semester who took a course with me, she got to know the professor who works at the NIH, and now she has a full-time job offer starting in May. And then I also just appreciate the campus itself. It's a really beautiful place, and I encourage you to visit it. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Carlin, and just very happy to take any further questions or chat further.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tori. Tori has a few minutes to stay with us before she has to leave. So would anyone like to ask any questions of Tori about the student experience?
Tori, I do have one question that came in. Why did you choose your concentration, and what did you have to do to prepare for that before coming?
It's a great question. I know that I want to have a firm grasp on such tools as modeling, and it seemed like this was the best way to do that. And so, you know, I'm kind of grounding myself in the statistical computing. I'm figuring out the different analytic methods in epidemiology. And so I feel comfortable now being able to apply those now that I'm working in a faculty member's lab. But the nice thing about, you know, you have electives. So if you also wanted to, you're kind of unsure where to go, you could still try taking a, you know, a policy course. But the nice thing, especially the required courses, they really do kind of delve into both sides. In terms of getting up to speed and preparing beforehand, Dr. Carlin might be able to speak more to courses required for either concentration, but
I'll address that later, Tori. Yeah, thanks.
Great. But all the faculty have been very welcoming in terms of if you need any additional support, if you kind of need to get up to speed again on certain topics, they're very much there to help guide you through that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one last question, but because I know you do have to leave, someone did ask, from what you've seen, how's the experience for international students? Maybe if you have a foreign friend or colleague, how do you see them adapting within the Georgetown community?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have a fellow student of mine in the program is from Ghana. And I think this is their first semester. They're still getting adjusted, but overwhelmingly the community, I think, is making friends with everyone. Everyone is not only meeting in class, but also encouraging others to get involved with activities outside of class. So we're currently thinking about the GLID Journal Club. So what does it mean to feel fluent in reviewing an academic article? And some of kind of the best experiences have also been outside of class in experiences like that. And so I would definitely encourage international students to get, to look into GLID. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tori. We really appreciate you being here and sharing your experience. If anyone does have any questions for Tori specifically, we can get you connected. I know Tori has offered to share her email and answer any future questions that you guys may have. So we'll go ahead and pass it back over to Dr. Carlin. A couple questions that we've had come in for you, Dr. Carlin. What are some of the career options for those that choose the science and policy versus those who choose the modeling and informatics once they graduate?
That's a fantastic question. And what I'd like to do is answer that in a couple slides, I think, when we get to the career slides. But I would like to answer, I see another question in the chat. What if someone has an interest in both data modeling and policy analysis? We love students who have an interest in both data modeling and policy analysis. You do not have to be one or the other. All of our students will be exposed to both, right? It's just a matter of degree. So does one of these drive you more than the other? Are you a little passionate about one more than the other? Or maybe you're less comfortable with one over the other, and this master's would be a good opportunity to kind of get up to speed. Maybe you have a really good mathematical and computing background, and you're already maybe comfortable with modeling. The science policy concentration might be a great way to kind of beef up your knowledge on that side. So it's definitely should not be a deterrent. That's a quality we love to see. Okay, let's take a quick look at what the kind of 3-semester course of study looks like for a modeling and informatics student. So in your typical fall number 1, you would take 9 credits, GLID 562 on Tuesdays and Fridays. Now the days and times are subject to change, but they're pretty stable from one year to the next. You take infection and immunity, epidemiology of infectious disease, and our interdisciplinary perspectives in infectious disease. And so you can kind of see that there's a lot of space outside of class time. This isn't like a typical sort of undergraduate degree where you might be coming to campus every day, 5 days a week for several hours. You certainly are going to use some of that white space for studying, but you're also going to use it for your other interests. And that might be, for example, doing an internship or getting a job on campus. And we can talk about that too. In the spring, the modeling students will take analytic methods in epidemiology. They'll take part 2 of the interdisciplinary perspectives course and mathematical and statistical computing. And most likely in this semester, they'll also take their 1-credit research ethics course. And then finally, ending with an 11 credit semester in the second fall. This is where you'll take your modeling populations and diseases course, your evidence for policy course. You'll take an elective this semester, and you'll end with the capstone. You can see in the next slide for science policy that there's a fairly similar cadence. Next slide, Zoe. Thank you. So you'll see the first fall is a little bit busier for the policy students. That's kind of just how the courses fall out, with the global health security and diplomacy course on Mondays. And then otherwise you're in all the same classes as the modeling and informatics students. In the spring, you'll take interdisciplinary perspectives, policy analysis, research ethics, and your elective. There's a little room for movement, by the way, like maybe there's a fall elective that you like better than the spring offering, so you could take your elective in the fall. And then in the last fall, you'll end with global health, economics and financing. You'll be in the infectious disease policy course with your modeling students, and then you'll end with your capstone. So I think most students find this to be a very doable schedule. The courses, graduate courses, tend to be a bit more demanding than undergraduate courses, which is why there's a bit fewer of them in any given semester. But this is considered a full-time load, but it is one that allows for work outside the classroom. Next slide, please. So student life, this is something you should be taking advantage of during that white space, right? Get involved in things that interest you. You'll be at a world-class university. Get involved in graduate student government. There is a club or a student organization for everything you could possibly be interested in, arts clubs and advocacy. There's tons of departmental seminars. I just presented at one today, and many of the GLID students came. We have a Global Health Institute that hosts seminars. There's just a lot of learning that can happen outside the classroom. There's also the DC advantage, which we talked about, which Corey just talked about. It's just a really nice place to live. Georgetown is a beautiful campus to spend time on. And you should take full advantage of the professional opportunities in this city while you're here. We also have really great resources for our students. We have a graduate career center that can advise you in interviewing and resumes and looking for jobs. We also have a writing center that I send pretty much all my students to, because everyone, myself included, we can always be improving in our writing, and this is a free resource. And all of the students come out of Georgetown better writers than they came in, which is something we really emphasize with GLID. So, you know, if you're looking to take advantage of student life, there's plenty here to do that. Next slide. This is just a beautiful picture of the Capitol. And as Zoe said, I used to work on Capitol Hill. And so this was my former home for 5 years. But, you know, we have students who have interned on Capitol Hill. Eventually, I suspect we will have graduates who go work on Capitol Hill, but also in all of the other executive branch offices around the city, the nonprofits, the think tanks. So I think if we go to the next slide, this might be where we talk about your professional outlook, whether that keeps you in DC or takes you outside of DC. So what can GLID do for you? We are finding that the degree is opening up a world of professional opportunities for our students. You know, our graduates will be skilled for jobs in pretty much any sector where infectious disease experts are needed. This includes government at federal, state, and local levels, academia, academic research, other types of research institutes like nonprofit research institutes, think tanks, industry in the private sector, nonprofit organizations and NGOs, intergovernmental organizations like the World Health Organization, places like the World Bank, all of these options are opening up for our students once they receive their master's. And so we had a question from Camilla: what are some career options for those who choose science and policy versus those who choose modeling and informatics once they graduate? So I think that you'll find that there are some distinctions between the concentrations, but there's actually a lot of overlap. And we like to think of the concentrations as kind of like a minor. So it's not akin to like a major in college. It's more like a minor. It gives you a leg up. It gives you 12 extra credits of study as part of this whole 30 credits. I can give you some examples of where our graduates are starting to go. So in terms of modeling and informatics students, right, we have one who graduated and went on to do a joint MD PhD program at Yale, and she's doing a quantitative research PhD using the modeling research experience she had at Georgetown as a basis. We have another modeling and informatics student who has gone on to Deloitte Consulting, working in their health practice. And, she will probably use a combination of her quantitative and her policy analysis skills. We have another student who is most likely, when she graduates, going to do a year at the NIH as a fellow doing informatics research. So these are the kinds of opportunities that will open up to you. On the policy side, again, we have students doing really cool things. Some of them are staying where they are for the time being, right? They maybe already had a job and they wanted to be able to grow in it. Our student Norma, who you saw in another picture, is a program specialist at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. So she's a civilian who works within the DoD system on disaster policy, which is exciting. We have other students who are applying to fellowships, major fellowships, presidential management fellowships, Fulbright fellowships. Some of them are currently semi-finalists for these positions. So our program is still young and new, and we have a small cohort of graduates, but we're starting to check all of these boxes. And over time, I think we'll get them all. So it really is true that I think that the degree that doesn't narrowly sort of put you in a box and allow you to work in one specific place. It's really about what you choose to do with it. Financial support. This is on everyone's mind, right? Graduate school is expensive. So we make it our mission, the program staff, to make sure everyone who gets admitted gets some kind of scholarship. I can't promise that, but it has been the trend. That has to be approved at the level of the dean of the graduate school for every applicant, but we've been successful in getting some merit aid for almost all of our students. Most students get a package that's about equivalent to 20% of the total tuition. The way tuition works in the graduate school is it's on a per credit basis. And the rate is being decided for the next academic year, but it'll be about $2,300 per credit over 30 credits. So it's not an inexpensive degree. Which is why we aim to give merit aid as much as possible. Some of our students also work with our financial aid office to work to develop other options, such as through federal student loans. And I would say most, if not all, of our students have jobs, some full, some part-time, and some of these are on campus. We've had students be really, really successful, especially this year, getting research assistantships in labs on campus, getting internships at USAID, paid internships. So this allows students to offset their tuition or the cost of living in DC. Graduate students can work up to 20 hours per week, and the rate is approximately $20 an hour. So, you do the math, and that's about $1,600 a month if you take full advantage. So that can be really helpful to offsetting costs. We're also happy to work with you if you find like an external fellowship to apply for. Maybe you found a foundation that has a scholarship that applies to you in some way because of your educational background or your ethnic background, and you want to apply for it. We'll help you apply for it. We'll write letters and we can help guide you through that process. You know, and obviously like other forms of support, such as like we've had students come in on the GI Bill, for example, that's another option. Next slide, please. Okay, the nuts and bolts of the application, there's actually a lot more information on the website that I encourage you to take your time to review. There's a ton of great FAQs, but these are just the basics. We need to see any transcripts that you have from an academic institution. Everyone applying into the program should have some coursework in biology and in statistics. The statistics is important because it helps get you ready for the epidemiology classes. If you're applying into the modeling concentration, we'd like to see at least 2 semesters of math that can include advanced statistics and some computer programming experience that can be in a course or real world experience. We just want to know that you're ready for those classes. On the science policy side, we ask to see prereqs in any kind of intro to economics class, macro, micro, and political science. I will say I get asked all the time, can I apply if I haven't taken those classes yet? Yes, you can apply. Please don't be deterred if you don't have every one of the prerequisites. We view every application individually. We view it as a holistic package. And if we think you have the potential to succeed in this course of study, but maybe you haven't taken poli-sci, or maybe you haven't taken a computer class, we'll ask you to take that over the summer after you've been admitted. And it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. You can do it at a community college as long as it's an accredited school. There are even some of these MOOC classes online through like edX, and they actually like offer free coursework that's the equivalent of 3 credit classes, and you get grades in them. They're pretty great options. We're happy to consider those. We just ask you to run them past us beforehand so we know that you're taking a worthwhile class. Your statement of purpose is really important. We have on our website a few questions that we really like you to address in your statement. This won't come up in the admissions application, so please reference the website. The purpose of these questions is to really understand why Georgetown, why GLID, and what do you think this master's will do for you? And the goal here is to make sure you know why you want this degree, right? Why do you want to put in the time for this degree? We want to make sure we can give you what you want out of this degree. So that's the point of the statement of purpose. 3 letters of recommendation. We do read these. They are important. They are helpful. We recommend, if you can, let's say maybe you're an undergrad still and you don't have a lot of work experience, and so all your letters are coming from your college or university. That's totally okay. It can be very helpful to have a letter from someone kind of high up, maybe a department chair or a dean. But in general, a diversity of letters is good. We admitted someone last year who had worked in a dentist's office, right? And had a letter of recommendation from her dentist who spoke to her work ethic and how quick she learned and thought on her feet. We'd like to see your resume or your CV. If you are from a non-native English-speaking country, we will need to see a TOEFL language proficiency. And relative to that, if we just jump to the bottom, WES evaluations are also highly recommended for international students, whether or not you're coming from a English-speaking country. It's the way transcripts are created in the United States can be very different from other countries. And this WES evaluation, while we don't require it, it can be very helpful to help us better understand your transcript. And this can help you, right? So that we're not being dismissive if we see grades that we don't understand or they don't look very good. The WES evaluation will translate that transcript into something we can understand. The GRE is not required. You do not have to take the GRE to get into this program. And we actually don't look at GRE scores, so you don't need to submit them. Next slide. Application deadline, April 1st, just in time for the Cherry Blossom Festival. The campus is really at its finest in the spring. So April 1st is totally doable for any of you who are just starting your applications. I think the hardest part for folks is maybe ordering their transcripts and getting those sent in. We will, on a case-by-case basis, evaluate an application that has unofficial transcripts at the time of submission, but ultimately we need to see the official transcripts. And get your letters of reference requested now, right? Because the faculty and people you're going to be asking are pretty busy. They want to write you letters. They just need a little bit of lead time. So get those requested and start thinking about your statement of purpose. But ultimately, you have plenty of time before April 1st. And we will aim to get everyone answers by the end of April or early May at the latest. If there is anyone who is sort of on a time crunch, right? Like they want to apply earlier than April 1st because maybe they're applying to other programs that have earlier deadlines and you're going to have to make an early choice. Reach out to Zoe. We can work with you and see if we can get your application evaluated in advance of this deadline. Next slide. Okay, I think that's it from me. I think we've answered the questions in the chat. I'm happy to take any further questions you may have.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Feel free to stick back if you have any questions. Any questions related to PhD applications, the only answer that we can give you is the admissions team is still reviewing applications. Gotten quite a few of those. And we will be hosting a PhD session in the future. Date, time, and location to be determined. So just keep that in mind. And then Dr. Carlin, it looks like we also got another question in.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not familiar with this exam, IELTS. I think that's a language exam similar to the TOEFL. Because I don't know the answer, I'm going to refer you to the FAQs on the admissions website. I think the answer will be there.
And I can actually help with that. We do accept that. The scoring is a little bit different. So just make sure, like Dr. Carlin just said, just make sure that your score is above the minimum requirements. And then make sure that you also, if you are from a university with a different transcript, that you also have that WES evaluation as well.
Thanks, Zoe. Well, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes and take questions. I also want you to know we are very accessible. You can reach out to me anytime at ellen.carlin@georgetown.edu. This email address works well. Zoe monitors glid@georgetown.edu. And we're happy to be here to guide and advise you in your journey. And we're also happy to do one-on-one Zooms with anyone who's still thinking about whether GLID and Georgetown is the right choice for them.
And if anyone is interested in coming on campus this spring or even during the summer or next fall, please let me know. I love going on in-person tours. I love taking people through the campus. I will say once it gets warmer, it's a lot more enjoyable. So keep that in mind. And if you're planning a trip to the DC area, definitely stop by.
Oh, you asked me to repeat my email address. Sure. It's my name, ELLEN .Carlin, CARLIN @georgetown.edu. I think Zoe will put this in the chat. My information is also on our faculty webpage. I think my email address is on there along with my bio, so feel free to check that out. Thanks, Camilla.
Well, thank you all so much. Feel free to log off or stay on if you have any more questions.